Chi lies on her bed, holding the hand of her young daughter, Fidelia. Her voice trembling as she speaks. Her words weighed down with love and fear. Fidelia, promise me, no matter what happens, you will stay strong. Never let anyone make you feel like you are not enough. Bonaventure and Chi had been married for 17 years. Their union was built on love and respect. Bonaventure was a modest, successful man who provided a comfortable life for his wife and their 15-year-old daughter, Fidelia. Chi was devoted to her family, pouring all her energy into raising Fidelia and supporting Bonaventure. One day, while Bonaventure walked through the quiet neighborhood, he met Tina. She was an attractive woman in her late 30s, newly moved into the area. With her bold smile, Tina captivated Bonaventure almost instantly. What began as casual greetings quickly turned into lingering conversation by the roadside. Bonaventure was drawn to Tina's charm, and before long, their meetings became secret. Tina was aware that Bonaventure was married, but she didn't care. She saw him as a means to escape her struggles as a single mother of 3. While Bonaventure was sneaking around with Tina, Chi noticed subtle changes in his behavior. He became distant, spent long hours away from home, and showed little interest in family matters. Fidelia, too, sensed her father's growing coldness, but didn't know how to confront him. One evening, Chi came down with a fever. She brushed it off as tiredness, assuming rest would cure her. But her condition worsened over the following days. Bonaventure, preoccupied with Tina, barely noticed her illness. When Chi asked for money to see a doctor, Bonaventure dismissed her, claiming it was unnecessary. Tina, meanwhile, encouraged Bonaventure to prioritize their future over his past. Chi collapsed one night, and Fidelia called for help. Bonaventure arrived late, distracted and indifferent. By the time Chi was rushed to the hospital, it was too late. She passed away, leaving Fidelia devastated and furious at her father's lack of care. Fidelia soon discovered the truth about Tina. She had seen her father with Tina multiple times, but she hadn't wanted to believe he was capable of betraying her mother. Now, with Chi gone, Ada's resentment towards her father deepened. Bonaventure, however, wasted no time. Just months after Chichi's death, he married Tina and brought her into their home, along with her 3 children. Chichi was maltreated poorly. Chichi's younger sister, Ifoma, was a married woman with a comfortable life and a heart full of love for her late sister's child. Upon hearing of Fidelia's poor treatment, Ifoma decided to intervene. One sunny afternoon, Ifoma arrived at Bonaventure's home. She had always been a strong-willed woman, but her heart broke when she saw Fidelia's frail frame and hollow eyes. Tina greeted her with cold politeness, while Bonaventure barely made eye contact. "I have come to take Fidelia," Ifoma announced firmly. She deserved to be with family who would love and care for her. Tina, already insecure about her place in the household, refused. "Fidelia is part of this family now. She is fine here," she said with a smile. Bonaventure turned between his sister-in-law's rightful claim and Tina's manipulative influence, sided with his wife. "Ifoma, I appreciate your concern, but Fidelia stays with me. This is her home." Fidelia, standing silently in the corner, wanted to go with her aunt, but was too scared to voice her wishes. Ifoma wailed openly, begging Bonaventure to reconsider. When her pleas fell on deaf ears, she left, heartbroken and determined to find another way. Ifoma had tried to put her sister's Chichi's death behind her, but the image of Fidelia, her niece, struggling, bothers her. Although Ifoma had visited Bonaventure and Tina, wanting to take her away, but something didn't sit right. The way Bonaventure had dismissed her concerns and the cold way Tina had handled the situation left Ifoma with an uneasy feelings. She had seen how much Fidelia had been neglected in her father's house. Bonaventure and Tina decided to take drastic measures to distance themselves further from the responsibility of caring for her. They enrolled Fidelia in a boarding school situated far from their town, under the pretense of offering her the best education. The school, known for its excellency, was an intimidating place for many students. However, Fidelia, who had always been an intelligent and reserved girl, seems like the perfect candidate. Fidelia arrived at the school alone and carrying little more than the basics. Her stepmother and father didn't accompany her, nor did they make any effort to visit her. Fidelia felt abandoned, like a forgotten child, sent away to be out of sight and out of mind. Ifoma had tried to put her sister's Chichi's death behind her, but the image of Fidelia, her niece, struggling in the burden, left a deep unease in her heart. Her instinct told her something was wrong. She couldn't rest until she knew the truth. Determined to find out more, Ifoma made the decision to return to Bonaventure's house and confront him and Tina. When Ifoma arrived at Bonaventure's home, it was quiet. Tina, as usual, greeted her with voice politeness, but her eyes carried a touch of defensiveness. Bonaventure appeared distracted, cold as always since Tina had entered the picture. "I came to speak about Fidelia," Ifoma said, her voice firm but laced with concern. "I haven't heard from her in weeks. I need to know how she is doing." Tina quickly interrupted. "She is fine. The school is fine. No need to worry." Ifoma's gaze sharpened. She knew Tina was trying to brush her off. "No, Tina, I need more than that. You sent her away without even a word of comfort. I want to know how she is really doing. Why has she had no visitation?" Bonaventure, sensing the tension, sighed deeply. "Ifoma, you know how it is. We are busy. Fidelia is at the school. Let her focus on her studies. She will be fine." But Ifoma wasn't convinced. "I'm not here to argue about what is convenient for you. This is about Fidelia." Ifoma could see how uncomfortable both of them were, and her instinct told her that there was more to the story. She refused to let them dismiss her concerns so easily. "I want to speak to the school directly. I will know what is really going on there, whether you like it or not," she said, her voice growing stronger. Bonaventure looked at her, his face troubled. "I will call the school later." Tina refused to provide any solid details about the boarding school, raised her suspicions. When Ifoma had asked the name of the school, Tina seemed caught off guard. Her response lacking conviction. "It's a private school, very reputable," Tina had said, avoiding direct eye contact. Ifoma knew something was wrong. If the school was truly as reputable as they claim, there would be no reason to hide its name. The next morning, Ifoma set out on a mission to uncover the truth. She started by asking around the local area, approaching people who might know about the school. But each person she spoke to seemed just as clueless as the last. "There is no school like that." Determined to get answers, Ifoma expanded her search. She contacted other schools in the area, inquiring about a private boarding school that might fit the description she had. None of them knew anything about the school. As she made more and more calls, Ifoma's frustration mounted. Late into the afternoon, she sat down at a cafe, exhausted and defeated. But her mind wouldn't rest. The pieces of the puzzle were not fitting together. Tina's lack of knowledge about the school's name felt like a deliberate attempt to mislead her. And Bonaventure's dismissive attitude had only strengthened her resolve to uncover the truth. Something was off. Ifoma realized that her niece Fidelia was not just neglected, she might have been abandoned in a dangerous situation. Days has passed since Ifoma failed attempt to find Fidelia's school. Frustrated but not ready to give up, Ifoma made one final trip to a neighboring town, a place she hadn't yet searched. As she walked through the streets, a name suddenly came to her. The name had been spoken in, passing by someone she had met on her travels. Could it be the school? Ifoma wasn't sure, but the name lingered in her mind, almost like a whisper of hope. She took a deep breath, a renewed sense of determination filling her chest. She would try again. When Ifoma reached the school, it appeared quiet and well maintained. The building looked much like the others she had visited, but something about it felt different, a sense of secrecy. She entered the administration building and walked up to the receptionist, her heart pounding. "I'm looking for a student named Fidelia," Ifoma said, trying to remain calm. "I believe she's enrolled here." The receptionist, a middle-aged woman, immediately gave her a tight smile. "I'm afraid there is no one by that name here. Perhaps you have the wrong school." "Could it be another dead end?" Ifoma said. But she couldn't give up now. "Please, there has to be a student, her name Fidelia. I have been searching for her for weeks. I'm here. I'm her aunt. She's been abandoned here." The receptionist's expression shifted from politeness to unease as Ifoma's desperation became more evident. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but I really don't think there is anyone by that name." Ifoma could feel the panic rising in her chest, but she steadied herself, refusing to back down. "Please, I have to see her. I can't leave until I know for sure. Please, just check." At the mention of abandonment, the receptionist hesitated. She exchanged a glance with a colleague standing nearby, who nodded softly. Reluctantly, the receptionist spoke again, her voice softer. There is a girl here named Fidelia, but she's not like the other students. Ifoma's heart skipped a beat. What do you mean? Where is she? The receptionist hesitated once more before nodding towards a hallway that led deeper into the building. Come with me. I will take you to her. But you need to understand, she isn't a typical student here. Her parents abandoned her, and she's been here ever since. She doesn't interact much with the other children. Ifoma followed her down the corridor, her heart racing with both relief and concern. This was her chance. Her niece, whom she had been searching for all this time, was here. When they reached a small, dimly lit room at the end of the hallway, the receptionist knocked softly before opening the door. Fidelia sat by the window, staring out at the yard, her face a mixture of loneliness and quiet. She looked up when the door opened, and her eyes widened in recognition. Auntie Ifoma! Fidelia's voice was fragile, as though she couldn't quite believe what she was seeing. Tears welled up in Ifoma's eyes as she rushed forward and put Fidelia into an embrace. My dear, I have been looking for you everywhere. I'm so sorry for what you've been through. Fidelia clung to her, a tear escaping her eyes. I thought you had forgotten about me. The receptionist quietly left the room, allowing Ifoma and Fidelia to have their moment. As they sat together, Ifoma spoke gently. Fidelia, I need to know what happened. Why did they send you here? Fidelia's voice wavered as she recounted her story. They told me it was a good school, that I had a better life here. But after I arrived, they didn't come to visit. Not once. I don't know where they are. Sometimes I wonder if they will ever come back for me. Ifoma's heart scattered hearing this. She had suspected as much. But to hear it from Fidelia herself confirmed the cruelty of it all. I'm so sorry, Fidelia, Ifoma whispered. You were never meant to be abandoned. I'm here now, and I will make sure you never feel alone again. As Ifoma and Fidelia walked out of the room, Ifoma's thoughts turned to Tina and Bonaventure. She needed answers, and they would have to face the truth about what had happened to Fidelia. The following day, Ifoma returned to confront Tina. She had no intention of letting Tina off easily. The moment Ifoma confronted Tina about Fidelia's abandonment, the tension in the room became sophisticated. Tina's face twisted in guilt, but she didn't apologize. Her excuses falling on deaf ears. Just as Ifoma was about to press harder, Bonaventure entered the room. His expressions darkened when he saw Ifoma, his eyes flinking nervously between her and Tina. "Ifoma, you need to leave," Bonaventure said sternly, his voice cold. "This is none of your business. Fidelia is no longer your responsibility." Ifoma froze, her heart pounding with anger and disbelief. "She's my responsibility now. You abandoned her, Bonaventure, and I'm taking her with me." Bonaventure's gaze hardened. "I said leave, now." His tone left no room for argument. The weight of his words hit Ifoma like a physical blow, but she didn't back down. "You will regret this," she said, her voice steady but filled with sorrow. She turned and left the house, not looking back. Ifoma didn't waste any time. She had spent too long searching for her niece, and now Fidelia was finally coming home. She took Fidelia in her arms, comforting her as they left Bonaventure's house behind. The girl was still frail, emotionally wounded by the neglect she had suffered. But Ifoma was determined to give her a fresh start, a life where love, safety, and hope were within her reach. They moved to Ifoma's house in the city, where she had already made arrangements for Fidelia to attend a school. The school was known for providing excellent education and care to students from diverse backgrounds, and Ifoma knew that it would be the perfect place for Fidelia to start anew. It wasn't long before Fidelia thrived in her new environment. Her intelligence and quiet strength became apparent to her teachers, and soon she was excelling academically. She made new friends and began to rebuild her trust in the world around her. Fidelia had found the security she had always longed for, security that she hadn't found with Bonaventure or Tina. Ifoma's children welcomed Fidelia into their family without hesitation. They treated her like a sister, and the bond they shared quickly grew stronger. For the first time in a long while, Fidelia smiled, truly smiled, as she felt the warmth of being part of a real family again. While Ifoma and Fidelia were busy building a life of love and stability, Bonaventure was preoccupied with his own affairs. His life, once filled with wealth and success, had started to crumble. He was so focused on Tina and her children that he didn't even think to reach out to his own daughter. Tina had made it clear to Bonaventure that his primary focus should be on her and her children. Fidelia was no longer part of their life. Tina's children were her priority now, and Bonaventure followed her lead, neglecting the child he had once vowed to protect. In the weeks that followed, Bonaventure poured all his attention into keeping Tina happy. He doted on her children, trying to make up for his past mistakes, but it was clear that he had abandoned his own daughter without a second thought. Ifoma watched her niece grow, proud of the strong, intelligent young woman she had become. Fidelia's story was a testament to the power of love and determination, and to the fact that no matter how broken a life may seem, there is always a chance for healing and redemption. As Fidelia approached the end of high school, Ifoma made the decision to enroll her in a university. Fidelia was hesitant at first. She had never imagined such a future for herself. The years of neglect and emotional trauma had left deep scars, and she often doubted her worth. But Ifoma believed in her, and more importantly, Fidelia had learned to believe in herself. Ifoma, my auntie, are you sure? I don't know if I'm ready for this. Fidelia confided one evening as they sat together in the living room. Ifoma smiled, placing a hand on Fidelia's. You have been ready all along. You have fought through so much already, Fidelia. You have the heart, the mind, and the strength. Don't let anything hold you back. The thought of starting university overwhelmed Fidelia, but Ifoma's encouragement gave her the strength to take that next step. University life was nothing like she had imagined. Fidelia was thrust into a new world, surrounded by students from various backgrounds, all with their own dreams and aspirations. At first, she felt out of place, as if she didn't belong in the same space as them. She was from a modest background, with a history of abandonment, and many of her peers came from privileged families. Despite the internal battles, Fidelia focused on her studies. She excelled in her courses, always pushing herself to be the best she could be. One day, during a group project, Fidelia was paired with a student named Clara, a wealthy and popular girl. Clara, seemingly friendly at first, began to take subtle remarks about Fidelia's background. It's amazing that you are here. I never expected someone like you to make it far. Fidelia's heart sank. She knew she didn't fit the mold of the typical university student, and Clara's words only served to reinforce her insecurities. She wanted to retreat, to hide from the world that seemed so different from her own. That evening, as Fidelia sat alone in her dorm room, she reflects on what had happened. She thought about the years she had spent with Ifoma, the sacrifices Ifoma had made for her, and how far she had come. She wiped away the tears, stood up, and reminded herself, I am more than my past. The next day, she confronted Clara. I may not come from the same background as you, But that doesn't make me any less capable or deserving of being here. Clara's face reddened, and for the first time, Fidelia felt empowered. It wasn't just about academics. It was about finding her voice and standing up for herself. One day, as Fidelia sat with Ifoma in the garden, reflecting on all they had been through, she turned to her aunt and said, "I never thought I would get here. But now, I see that it wasn't about the past or the mistake others made. It was about choosing to move forward, to embrace the life I wanted, no matter how difficult it seemed." Ifoma smiled warmly, her heart full of pride. And that is the greatest lesson, Fidelia. It's not where we start, but where we chose to go that matters. You have always had it in you. I just helped you see it. Together, they sat in silence, knowing that their journey wasn't just about overcoming obstacles. It was about the power of love. Fidelia's story teaches us that no matter the challenges we face, we have the power to change our circumstances through resilience, determinations, and the support of those who love us. The past does not define us, our choices do. In a world that often feels unfair, is the strength to rise above adversity and embrace our potential that shapes our future. And when we do, we not only change our own lives, we inspire others to do the same. Never forget, you are not defined by your past, but by the action you choose to take today. So besties, what did you learn from this story? Kindly share with me your lessons in the comment sections. Give the story a thumbs up and share the story with your loved ones also. Subscribe to this channel if you have not done so by now. Until I bring another story your way. Bye!